Hi students, this is a quick overview for benchmark testing next week. Tuesday you take you have to do the narrative test, which you will have to basically read passages first, answer multiple choice questions, and then write a narrative. On Wednesday you will have to read two more passages and then write a literary analysis task. So I wanted to go over a few key points for both of these essays that you basically have to write next week for benchmark testing. First, the narrative essay task. It may ask you to rewrite the story from the point of view of another character, or it may ask you to continue the story. Make sure you understand the prompts when you before you get started. Your lead of the story should be interesting. It should be descriptive. It should foreshadow the conflict. It should definitely set the story up and tell the reader basically where the story is taking place, who's involved in the story, and kind of like hint to what the theme is, what lesson is being learned or by the character in your story. But remember, the prompt may ask you to rewrite from a different point of view. So that means you're writing basically the same story, but you have to keep in mind the character who you're writing from. You have to see the story through their eyes. Or it may ask you to continue the story. Okay. Please make sure you use the same point of view in your narrative. So if the original story is in first person, then you need to continue the story in first person. Or if it's in third person, you need to continue in third person. If the original story includes dialogue, then you also need to include some dialogue into your narrative. And also follow the same basic storyline. All right. If don't go putting spaceships and monsters and demons and dragons in. If the story is kind of like if it's realistic fiction, if it's something that could basically really happen. So let's take a look very quickly at this example narrative. I just want to read the very first paragraph for you. It says, learning something new can be a scary experience. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was learn how to swim. I was always afraid of the water, but I decided that swimming was an important skill that I should learn. I also thought it would be good exercise and help me to become physically stronger. What I didn't realize was that learning to swim would also make me a more confident person. So, first of all, what point of view is this story told from? I hope you selected first person. You see I all throughout the very first paragraph. We already know the reader kind of sets up for us the conflict of the story and the situation that he's going through. He was trying to learn how to swim. We basically know how the story is kind of going to unravel as well. He's going to start off talking about how this was something hard, something scary for him, and then he's going to go into some of the reasons why he wanted to learn how to swim. And then last but not least, this whole story is going to kind of basically explain how this situation made him a more confident person. So this the person who wrote this narrative is basically setting up the story for you in the very first paragraph. And it also makes me want to continue reading to find out exactly how what happened and how did he actually learn how to swim. So if you want to, you can stop the video and you can continue to read the story and basic and see how this story evolves. You see right here, it goes over a basic 5 paragraph essay structure. In the introduction, it says you should identify the topic, explain why it is important and worthy of discussion. In the body paragraph, the first body paragraph, you should support and expand upon the thesis. We haven't really talked about a thesis, but a thesis is basically just like a statement in your introduction paragraph to tell the reader what you're going to talk about. Your main idea or your argument that's being presented in the introductory paragraph. Body paragraph B, again, it further develops the idea. Body paragraph C, it should relate to the thesis statement again. And then in your conclusion, you kind of just basically wrapping everything up. And you can pause the video so you can read these explanations further. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. And the second task that you will have to write on Wednesday will be a literary analysis test. This should be familiar to you because we've been doing literary analysis tests all throughout the Giver. Those writings that we've been doing are basically literary analysis essays. So remember, make sure you read, understand the prompts. Read and understand the prompts. Let me add that, please. Think and plan your answer. All right, because I have a lot of you that you have been restating using the same words in the prompts to restate, but it's not showing me that you clearly understand exactly what you're writing about. So make sure you think about all of the important words in that prompt before you start writing. You may have to analyze the characters, the setting, the plot development, character development, the use of foreshadowing, symbolism, etc. It may ask you to analyze anything. I'm not sure what it will ask you to analyze, but you have to make sure you stick to the prompt. Follow the basic format that we've been using throughout this whole unit with the Giver: introduction, 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion. Your body paragraph should have at least 2 pieces of evidence in each body paragraph, and your explanation of the evidence should relate and connect to the prompt. All right. So let's take a quick look at a literary analysis. And this is a literary analysis for the Giver. Introduction paragraph. It says the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. This quote by Marcel Proust speaks of discovering what's right in front of you by seeing it differently with new eyes. The main character, Jonas, in Lois Lowry's The Giver, goes through a similar experience when he discovers his capacity to see beyond. Jonas begins to see his community differently with an awareness and mindfulness that most people in the community have lacked. Mindfulness, in fact, is one of the central themes in The Giver. Although the book begins with what seems to be a perfect place, it turns out that the people in the community are living shallow and superficial lives. As Jonas begins his work as the receiver of memory, he gains wisdom, and through that wisdom, learns that in protecting the community from the memories, their lives have lacked feelings and understanding. In the end, Jonas learns to value his new way of seeing and chooses to risk everything to restore mindfulness and wisdom to everyone in the community. So, even though I don't have the prompt here, I can basically figure out what the question was. It's basically talking about how Jonas, it may be analyzing how Jonas evolved as a character, how Jonas's position as a receiver of memory changed his viewpoint on the community. I definitely see that this person, they started off very creatively with a quote by someone else that kind of related to what they're going to talk about in this literary analysis. You also see that the author's name is there, the title is there, and it's going to focus basically on the theme of mindfulness. How Jonas wanted the community to go back to having a mind of their own or having choices, being able to have to gain wisdom. So that I can tell from this introduction paragraph that that's what this essay is going to focus on. In the body paragraph, what I really want to point out to you, it says the people in Jonas's community share their feelings with family members in their dwellings each evening. However, the feelings they share are merely surface feelings shared by mindless people numbly going about their day, shallow and superficial. For example, when Lily expressed anger over the incident at the park with a boy from another community who did not follow the rules, it was not truly anger. Instead, Jonas realized she felt impatience and exasperation, and her feelings were relieved instantly after sharing them with her family. Also, after receiving a memory of a family celebrating Christmas, Jonas asked his father, "Do you love me?" His father replied with a chuckle, surprised Jonas would use such a meaningless word. He suggested it would be more appropriate to consider whether he enjoys Jonas or takes pride in his accomplishments. So you see how they set up basically what's going on in the novel and then gave the textual evidence. This person used parenthetical citations by putting the page numbers behind the evidence. You don't have to do that.